So for today's panel discussion, our topics today cover the strategies and opportunities to assist the Black community. So if we start, my conversations would really start now to this group now about going forward. What do you see in terms of how have you leveraged in this environment with post-COVID? What types of trends are you seeing in your particular industries, and what can be done as a community to move forward? So I'll start that with Kevin, then I'll move over to Isaac.
How do we move forward? Okay, I mean, from my perspective, and I'm obviously, Mediacom has roughly 170 employees across Canada. And so, if you asked me 3 months ago, 6 months ago, even, how we would manage in this type of situation, if we would manage successfully, I honestly, I don't think I would be too confident about that.
Just last week, we were working with Labatt's and Budweiser, where they were able to allocate $50,000 to the Canadian Black Chamber, another $50,000 to the Black Legal Defense Center, and another $10,000 to the Center for Young Black Professionals. Last night, this morning, I have been involved in a number of discussions and conversations around funding for Black organizations and initiatives. Additionally, the mayor will be making an announcement about $1 million allocation that is going to go to, again, Black organizations. Had we had this discussion 2 weeks ago, I will tell you that the million wasn't on the table, but the possibility of consideration for funding as a result of COVID was being discussed. But the real tangible investment and real dollars are now starting to flow.
Yeah, sorry, as I was saying, so what we've been looking at is, again, similar to the last comment, technology. And the good thing with our venture arm already being within the technology space, we've been seeing where we could incorporate more technology within our processes. And we've been sort of moving forward into more of a lean operations. So even how we're going to launch our hotel, the strategies around that. It's a boutique hotel by the airport and event space. So we're now looking at what technologies we have to implement to make it more efficient once we do open up. Some of the tech companies that we're managing right now, we've been looking at new business plans on how they're going to be able to roll out into their own marketplaces, whether they're in the fintech, logistics space, ed tech space. So, technology is becoming more and more of a tool that we're going to have to utilize.
Yeah, so I think given my role in the company, I'm essentially the infrastructure guy, if that makes sense. And a large part of my role is actually to be outside working. So from a technology point of view, we've been doing a really good job at working by phone, laptop, iPads, whatever it is. I think the biggest challenge was, not being downtown in the meeting rooms and leveraging technology like Zoom and everything else. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there for businesses to start innovating more. And where I actually see the need now is accommodating the communication between the office and home. So right now, everybody's working from home. We're all kind of suffering through the same communication issues. But once you go back in the offices, you're going to find that the meeting rooms aren't quite equipped to work in a remote environment, right? And I think that's going to be the next phase of innovation, is getting office spaces equipped to communicating with people who've, I'd say, done a decent job of working remotely from home.
Having said that, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the events of the last couple of weeks and the effect with the backdrop of Father's Day and talking about police reform. How have each of you been impacted, and how have you felt regarding the conversation? I know there's been a number of articles in local papers, Globe and Star accordingly, with folks talking about it. I think, Kevin, you have been involved in a couple of some of these conversations that have happened recently.
When the events happened, I think I had to take some time because there were multiple things that I had to look at. One is find out, had to have some conversations with my children, of which I have 3. And so that was an explanation and a conversation about all of the key points that we're talking about today. But also what was happening is having conversation with, I'm very proud of the fact that my organization is quite diverse here in Canada, and with a very strong Black group of Black talent. And so it was having a conversation with the entire agency about what happened, how we feel, why this is happening, and most importantly, the accountability that is now on not only the Black community, but all of those who are not Black. The accountability rests on both those groups, and we need to be a part of the education. And so since then, I've been on, you referenced the Globe article that I shared some of the challenges and through growing up in the advertising world. But also we've had town halls within our organization, which has allowed individuals from the Black community to be really honest about what they go through. And I can tell you that in a lot of cases, this is really shocking for non-Blacks, very shocking to some of them. But I think that's the type of conversations we need to have. I have told them, and those that work on my team, I want people to be uncomfortable, but not to the point of paralysis. We need them. We need them. And so uncomfortable, yes. Paralysis, no, because change has to happen. So it's having those type of conversations, which I do encourage. It's a necessity.
So excellent. I just want to bring in Duwayne Williams. So Duwayne, apologize for the technical difficulties in getting you on board. Duwayne is the VP of Asset Management within Metrolinx. Duwayne, the question on the table is the events of the last few weeks with the backdrop of Father's Day. Just wondering how you personally are taking it as a father and as Black males. Really, the essence of this conversation really is how have these events impacted you and your feelings? You can unmute yourself. We're not hearing you.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
So apologies for being late. I completely missed all the questions. I had connectivity issues. What was the question?
So the question that we're just going through now is really over the last little while, how have you been impacted by the tragedies that we've seen and the conversations really that you're having with your family, with your son?
Well, I just echoed my colleague there that was just speaking. It really is interesting. So at work, it's obviously different than at home. Where I work, and I'm sure a lot of organizations, there really isn't a lot of people of color in very senior positions. And so, you feel an obligation to speak up, which I will be doing next week within the organization. At home, it just reminds you of all the things that you've been going through personally through life, what you persevered through. And, you get the stories of what everybody's been going through as well. So I would say that it's been quite impactful, but also very excited to see the youth and how everyone's mobilized around this and just taking action. And I'm really happy that the voices that we're hearing out in the media and what we're hearing from people I'm really happy that it's not dying down, and I like how people are going about it, especially in Canada, just, demanding for rights and justice, and that's par for the course.
Great. And Duwayne, since you did miss some of them, I would also ask you to speak on just the impact of technology. Obviously, I understand, we're working for the same organization, and we've changed from a 90% in office to 95% out of office. You started to talk about media and some of the conversations that you're having with some of the folks that you're dealing with. Within the industry, what do you see as next steps to sustain this momentum and to move forward so that we don't lose, as you said, this is hot right now, but what can we do? What are next steps? What's the call to action for us?
I think it will take a couple of things, making sure a couple of things happen. One, everyone in a leadership position is making sure that we're holding our leadership accountable and creating long-lasting partnerships, legacy for our community, not just for now, but making sure that we get the commitment now and that it lasts into the future. So from my perspective, I am having conversations with partners and non-partners about what that looks like, whether it be in service or in dollars. What does that look like, and helping them get through that, number one. I also think that it's good because we have, in the last week, I've had conversations with some really large brands and tech organizations about how to help. And I think we need to make sure that we quickly take advantage of all of them. Make sure that we lock those in and that we keep those for the future. I think the second piece, which is just as important, is it would be a shame and a great loss if we had all of this resources pointing at our community and it wasn't as impactful as possible.
Agreed.
Sure that we're holding each other accountable. Every dollar that's spent or that's given, that there's that we are accountable, that we're great stewards. Like, we need to make sure that those checks and balances are happening at all levels, because we know that just one story of mismanagement, lack of stewardship will sometimes wreak havoc across our community. And then within our community, we need to start building up to Councillor Thompson's point about building up internally. So I'm excited about my children's generation. I know growing up, I didn't see they were strong leaders, but now I'm seeing multiples of that. And I can't wait till my children's generation grows up.
For listening.
I'm not sure the context, but very generally, what can you do? What can everyone do? Focus as much dollars as possible that you spend back into your community. And I think I myself need to do a better job of that. So I have been connecting with all of these directories to make sure that it's not only, I'm from Jamaican parents, so I have myself on my Instagram have been doing Support Black Fridays, where my family is going out on Fridays and supporting Black-owned businesses. I think we need to start spending back in it, and that's my commitment in order to get that done, number one. Number two is, I think that we need to start bringing along other people. We need to make sure that our fabric is stronger. And as you know, many of us are working as individuals, and no man is an island. So we need to lock ourselves in, the entire community and make sure that our dollars, our votes, our thinking is impacted outside of just our community to the greater cities that we live in.
Excellent. I'm going to go to Duwayne for a quick comment, and then Councillor Thompson, you're going to have the last word.
Yeah, so you know what, I echo all the comments. I think for me personally, the most important thing is to give back as much as you can personally, and invest in the youth, right? Like I can't say that enough. When I went back to my university and I saw how many more women, how many more people of color were in the technical field, I was actually pretty proud to see it, because I know that was an initiative that was started not by me, but other colleagues when I was in university. So investing now and sowing those seeds is going to pay off just huge in the future.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you very much. I agree with the comments that have been made, as well as I want to thank you, Doug, for arranging this really important conversation on Zoom. I will say that there are a number of things, and I was just writing while the other panel members were speaking. I think the first thing that I placed on my list was structure and a strategic plan for the community. Because in as much as we may shop and do the Black Fridays and so on and so forth, those are elements, but I think it has to be centralized around a foundation and a structure, and I think that's really super important. I wrote down economic empowerment for the community and creating opportunities there, engagement. Isaac talked about community benefits. This is a program initiative that we have in the city. In fact, in my area, where we have billions of dollars are going to be spent on the Golden Mile area between a pharmacy and Eglinton over to Birchmount. We are actually putting that in place. We've actually done it as well as part of the city, as part of the redevelopment of the Woodbine racetrack facility that's taking place. I also wrote on my list, procurement access. So opportunities for Black owned, and I don't want to use the term minority, quite frankly. I'm just thinking that's a passé term. I'm Black, just Black, period. I'm not a minority to anyone, I'm Black. And if you want to view me as a minority, that's your prerogative, but I'm Black. And so a procurement access, so that city contract, RFPs, RFQs, people can have access. It took me 7 years with a bunch of folks to work to get that in the city. It's a small number now. We want to expand that. I worked with a fellow by the name of Courtney Betty for a number of years. We put in place. The mayor and others are very supportive of it. We need to expand that and so on. So it's really important. I think it's important for our community to really be connected, because we're not as connected as we should be. It goes back again to infrastructure. We also have to establish, and all the part of connection, an umbrella organization can actually be an organization that's recognized by the Black community, where other community organizations can be part of, but it's central. So when someone says, similar to the United Way, for example, right? When someone says, we want to make a contribution to the community, we want that organization to then help to distribute funds and what have you, or we want to create employment opportunities and so on. So that umbrella organization is really important. I think partnership is extremely important with other organizations and communities. I also think what's really important for us, particularly at this time going forward, is that we need to be involved in government and government policies and advocacy role. We need to be able to speak and write letters, send emails to direct at government policies to basically get the type of investments and the type of changes that we want for our community. I think it's simply time to take action. Really, this is a wake-up call for us. It's a call to action. And as I said, we're all brilliant people, smart, like extremely intelligent people, because we're able to do the work for many others who may hire us. The fact of the matter is that we have to make a community contribution to ourselves and to make the investment in addressing those issues. So it's an honor for me to be involved with this conversation. And I'd simply like to ask a question with respect to next step, because I think that it's one thing to have this conversation. I'm hopeful that we don't simply just have the conversation, then move on. We never talk again, or we never follow up. I'm hoping that through you, Doug, there'll be some follow up, as well as to create that conversation can have, whether or not collectively or individually amongst ourselves and the broader community, so that we can actually move forward with addressing what I think are fundamental changes that we as members of the community need to put in place, in addition to working with many others who are of like mind, wanting to affect what I think is a human rights crisis within the Black community.
The event is sponsored by the Lion Circle. I want to thank Michael Thompson, Kevin Johnson, Duwayne Williams, and Isaac Olowolafe for taking the time out of their busy schedules. And I have a great team working with me, including Michael A., Phil Edwards, Reggie Brown, Uriah Martin, Trayvon Hutchinson, Mark Smith, Ricardo Francis, Leslie Latty, and Adrian Leckie. Organization president is Owen Roden, with my fellow directors Patrick B. and DeMar Hewitt, with our chair Kurt Henry. On behalf of the Lion Circle, thank everyone for attending. Stay tuned, more to come.